Boxing isn't just about throwing punches. It's all about the drama, the grit, and those wild, jaw-dropping moments that no one sees coming. But every once in a while, a fight goes way beyond just an upset. It becomes a full-blown nightmare for the favorite. We are talking about those brutal beatdowns where the underdog doesn't just win, but absolutely destroys the top dog, leaving the boxing world speechless and the loser questioning their whole career. These fights are proof that boxing is as unforgiving as it is thrilling. So, sit back and get ready as we dive into the most humiliating upsets in modern boxing history. James DeGale versus Caleb Truax. James DeGale probably thought this fight was gonna be a smooth ride, but boxing had other plans, and they were not pretty. After 12 brutal rounds, a trip to the hospital, and watching his IBF super middleweight title slip away, DeGale had to face the cold, hard truth. Fairy tale endings do not exist in this game. Going into his 2017 fight at the Copper Box, DeGale figured Caleb Truax was just a stepping stone. Big mistake. In round 5, his bad habit of chilling on the ropes completely backfired and Truax went off, turning the fight into a bloody mess. By the time the judges read the scorecards, one calling it a draw, the other two giving it to Truax, it was already game over. DeGale was shook. This wasn't just a loss, it was a straight-up humiliation. DeGale was supposed to cruise through Truax, but instead he got outworked, outclassed, and out-hustled. He clearly underestimated his opponent, and the result? A disaster in front of a stunned crowd. The underdog shocked the world, while DeGale was left wondering, does he even have the fight left in him? Teófimo López versus George Kambosos Jr. Teófimo López strutted into his 2021 showdown with George Kambosos Jr. like he was about to conquer the world. With a swagger that could have knocked out a fighter just by looking at them, he was trash-talking like a champ and casually predicting a quick knockout. He honestly thought this was gonna be an easy night. After all, he was the unified lightweight champion, the heavy favorite, and had just taken down one of the most hyped boxing figures in the game. But man, did he get hit with a cold, hard dose of reality. Round 1 came, and bam! Lopez hit the canvas like a bag of bricks. It wasn't supposed to go down like that. But instead of bouncing back and dominating, he got outboxed all night long by Kambosos. The underdog turned the tables and put on a performance that had everyone watching thinking, who is this guy? Kambosos was calculated, slick, and calm under pressure. He made Lopez look lost in there, and by the time the final bell rang, Lopez wasn't just defeated. He was outclassed. He'd walked in like a king, only to get dethroned in one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. But it doesn't stop there. Instead of owning his loss like a true champ, his performance, clearly not his fault. He started blaming everything but his own game plan. And you know what? That just made everything worse. He wasn't just the guy who got beat. He was the guy who couldn't handle getting beat. It turned a brutal loss into a PR disaster, and the whole thing just left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, rematch. Tyson Fury came into his rematch with Deontay Wilder talking it on the planet. Well, he missed the second round part, but he definitely proved his point. From start to finish, dropping Wilder twice and completely dismantling the so-called knockout king. Had seen enough and waved it off, sealing one of the most lopsided beatdowns in heavyweight history. And if getting outclassed wasn't bad enough, Wilder didn't take the loss too well. Instead of admitting defeat, he blamed his ridiculously over-the-top pre-fight costume, saying it weakened his legs. Whether that's true or not, one thing's for sure. Fury owned that night, and Wilder's aura of invincibility? Gone. Muhammad Ali versus Leon Spinks. Muhammad Ali versus Leon Spinks, a short but legendary rivalry that shook the boxing world. Nobody, and I mean nobody, saw the first fight coming. Everyone expected Ali to cruise through the bout, but Spinks had other plans. From the opening bell, Spinks went off, throwing ferocious punches with pinpoint accuracy. the guy landed over 400 shots, more than anyone had ever thrown at Ali in his entire career. Ali, expecting an easy night despite being past his prime, got a rude awakening. Spinks outworked, outlanded, and outright shocked the world, taking a split decision win that should have honestly been unanimous. Fans were stunned. Ali, the people's champ, had just been outclassed by a dude with only 6 professional wins to his name. But the GOAT wasn't about to go out like that. In the rematch, Ali flipped the script, dominated Spinks, and took back his crown. It was short-lived, but this rivalry gave boxing one of its most unforgettable upsets, and a reminder that in boxing, anything can happen. Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz Jr. Nobody thought Andy Ruiz Jr. stood a chance against the chiseled, unbeaten heavyweight champ Anthony Joshua. But boxing loves an underdog story, and Ruiz delivered in epic fashion. The fight started off normal, until it wasn't. Joshua hit the canvas not once, not twice, but 4 times before the ref called it off in the 7th round. The moment the world saw Joshua, the sculpted Adonis of boxing, getting rocked by Ruiz, who looked more like a dude you'd see at a backyard barbecue than in a title fight, the internet exploded with memes. It was one of the biggest shocks in boxing history, proving once again, never judge a fighter by his physique. Lennox Lewis versus Hasim Rahman. Lennox Lewis strutted into his 2001 bout against Hasim Rahman like a man who had already won. After all, he was the reigning heavyweight champion, one of the best to ever do it. And Rahman? Just another name on his hit list. Or so he thought. Instead of locking in and grinding through training camp, Lewis was busy playing movie star on the set of Ocean's 11. While he was rubbing elbows with Hollywood's elite, Rahman was in South Africa's high-altitude training conditions, preparing for the biggest fight of his life. That altitude? Yeah, it played a major role in what happened next. The fight started, and from the get-go, it was clear. Lewis wasn't himself. His movements looked sluggish, his timing was off, and Rahman was way more comfortable in the ring than anyone expected. Still, most people thought Lewis would pull it off. That is, until round 5. And then, out of nowhere, Rahman unleashed a devastating right hand that sent Lewis crashing to the canvas like a fallen skyscraper. The world watched in absolute shock as the champion, once so confident, lay flat on his back, eyes staring at the ceiling, his heavyweight belt slipping away. The upset wasn't just embarrassing, it was humiliating. Lewis had treated Rahman like a stepping stone for bigger fights against Mike Tyson or John Ruiz, but Rahman had other plans. Instead of Lewis walking away victorious, Rahman walked out as the new heavyweight king. Moral of the story? Maybe don't prioritize Hollywood fame over hardcore training when there's a hungry challenger ready to take your head off. Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas. Tyson was expected to make quick work of Douglas, but what nobody expected was that Douglas was about to pull off one of the greatest surprises in boxing. The first shock came in the 8th round, when Tyson knocked Douglas down, leaving many thinking it was all over, but Buster wasn't having any of it. He got back up, fought through the pain, and then went on to dominate Tyson in the later rounds. The once invincible Tyson looked completely out of sorts, and as the fight wore on, Douglas took control, until in the 10th round, Tyson was sent to the canvas in one of the most shocking knockouts ever. They didn't even have ice packs because they were so sure the fight would be over quickly. It was all disaster and disbelief as Tyson's corner scrambled to respond to the unthinkable. And as if the knockout wasn't enough, Tyson's team protested the referee's count, claiming it wasn't fair. But really, there was no denying it. Buster Douglas was the new heavyweight champion. Tyson, the man who was once seen as invincible, had just been taken down by a man most thought was a walking punchbag. It was a turning point in boxing, and one that Tyson would never fully recover from. So, what's your take on these shocking boxing upsets? When arrogance meets reality, it's often a recipe for disaster. Do you think any of these fighters will bounce back, or is their reputation forever tainted? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into some of the most humiliating moments in boxing, hit that like button, smash subscribe for more epic content, and stay tuned for what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next round.